you're saying is the Scofield Bible, its theology is deceptive.
All right, let's see it.
A very wealthy, very charismatic preacher named John Darby came with this doctrine that's now referred to as the secret rapture or the pre-tribulation rapture.
So this is a little misleading. John Nelson Darby created the entire concept of the rapture. Now, it was a pre-tribulation rapture that he created between 1827 and around 1833. But without Darby, there is no rapture of any kind whatsoever. That is a 19th century American Christian innovation. There was no such thing as the rapture prior to John Nelson Darby.
And guess who he was connected to, by the way? The Rothschilds.
Interesting.
I cannot find any data whatsoever that connect the Rothschilds to John Nelson Darby, but no Christian nationalist dogma would be complete without some anti-Semitic conspiracy theory.
Have you ever heard of a Scofield Bible?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so C.I. Scofield was basically a student of John Darby.
Cyrus Scofield was not a student of John Nelson Darby. John Nelson Darby died only 3 years after Scofield converted to evangelical Christianity.
And he adopted that part of the doctrine, and he incorporated that into the Bible. It was the first Bible ever made that had study notes with it.
The Scofield Bible was absolutely not the first Bible that included study notes. The Geneva Bible, first published in 1560, included book introductions as well as study notes in the margins. The reason that became unpopular is because when the King James Version was commissioned, King James prohibited the inclusion of explanatory notes because he did not like the anti-monarchic tenor of the study notes that were included in the Geneva Bible.
But when you start actually going back and reading line by line by line what is said that will be leading up to Jesus coming back, which is when the rapture happens, it's the inverse of what John Darby put down.
So it's neither, because no concept of a rapture was ever conceived by any of the authors of the Bible. The notion of the rapture is a post-biblical creation that is based on negotiating with the text to try to impose some kind of unifying framework to allow us to predict the future, basically. And so whether it's pre-trib or mid-trib or post-trib, these are just different configurations of the texts of the Bible that are building on the framework that Darby created, namely that of the rapture.
My sense was the Scofield stuff, which has had massive implications for our foreign policy, for example, and in our domestic politics, was probably a lie.
I don't think it would be accurate to characterize the doctrine of the pre-tribulation rapture as a lie. It's a tergiversation of the biblical text for sure, but all doctrines derived from the Bible are that, because the Bible is not univocal, it is multivocal, and to try to extract single, unified, consistent principles from the Bible, you have no choice but to impose some kind of unifying framework derived from your particular interpretive agenda to overrule its multivocality and force it to say whatever makes the biblical text meaningful or useful to you. So all doctrines derived from the Bible are doing that, just like the pre-tribulation rapture is. And so if the pre-trib rapture is a lie, all doctrines derived from the Bible are lies.
I do know that that translation or that commentary on the Bible has had massive effects on our politics that have been very, very negative and resulted in the deaths of a lot of people.
All concepts of the rapture, irrespective of the relationship to the tribulation, are 19th century theological innovations that hurt people. So whether pre or mid or post or any other kind of trib, they have had deleterious effects on the livelihoods and the mental health of primarily Americans. And it's primarily Americans because the rest of the world of Christendom has largely rejected this doctrine, and it only remains salient within American evangelicalism and broader Christian nationalism, primarily because of its rhetorical utility. So even as these two men who don't know much about the Bible bicker about whose version of the rapture is more harmful, they're promoting a harmful doctrine that was invented by John Nelson Darby in the 19th century. And the fit for this video has been The Amazing Spider-Man.